Hello and welcome to today's EcoCast, Supercharging Edge Computing Environments. Today's EcoCast is brought to you by Open Systems and Nutanix and produced by ActualTech Media. Thank you everyone for joining us on the EcoCast. We've got a great show lined up for you today. We have some really cool presentations. This is a hot topic, edge computing. So I know you're going to learn a lot. We want to get all your questions answered. If you haven't been on an EcoCast before, you should know that ActualTech Media created the MegaCast and EcoCast event series to help educate IT professionals such as yourselves about the latest and greatest in enterprise technology to help you do it as quickly and efficiently as possible, to get all your questions answered, and to have a chance to win some very cool prizes while you're doing it. So thank you again for taking time out of your schedule to join us on the event today. Now, before we get started, we have a little bit of housekeeping here that we first need to cover. First off, prizes. We've got some awesome prizes to give away. I'll be talking about those prizes as well as the eligibility requirements for those prize drawings in just a moment. Questions. Like I said, we want this to be an educational event, so we encourage you to use the studio Q&A box is what it says right there in the audience console. If you just click on that tab, in the audience console, that's where you ask all your questions. And we'll be answering those questions as quickly as we can. In fact, I can actually make the studio Q&A move around a little bit there, draw your attention to it. So make sure you check that out. We'll be doing our best, again, to answer all those questions. And we'll be saving up the best questions for our dedicated Q&A session that we'll have after each of today's expert presenters. We also have some questions for you during the event. I'll be asking you a few poll questions at the start and then after each of the presenters. And of course, we appreciate your participation in those poll questions. We love to get feedback from our audience and find out where you are when it comes to edge computing. And I'll be sharing the results of those poll questions with you so you can see how you stack up with your peers. And then social. We want this to be a social event. On the bottom of the console, you'll find a Twitter icon. You can tweet directly from there. The hashtag for today's event is EdgeEcoCast. And if you use that Twitter icon, the hashtag will be automatically appended to everything that you tweet. So I'll be monitoring Twitter throughout the event, monitoring the hashtag, and we appreciate any social feedback, any social comments about the event. I'll be retweeting and following just about anyone who takes advantage of that. And then finally, resources. There's a handouts tab on your audience console, and you'll find a PDF in there from Open Systems about their solution. They're the first presenter on the event today, and another PDF from Nutanix. And you can simply click on those, download those, and read those after the event. So those are the resources available, hand-selected by today's presenters, and we encourage you to check those out. Now, as far as prizes, we'll be giving out 3 Amazon $500 gift cards on the event today. 1 after the first presenter and 2 after the second presenter. So lots of great prizes to give out. You must be live on the event to qualify, but there are some other legalese prize terms and conditions that you can check out. That link is also in the handouts tab where it says ATM prize terms. Just click on that if you'd like to learn more. The requirements to be awarded your prize, should you be selected as the prize winner, are that you must be able to submit an IRS Form W-9 to ActualTech Media. We will reach out after the event to deliver your prize. Now, through the MegaCast and EcoCast event series, we have given out thousands of dollars to charities thanks to generous attendees such as yourselves who win a prize and choose to donate it to charity. The charities that we selected to support are there on the screen. If you win a gift card on the event today and you'd like to donate that prize value to charity, we would love to help you do that. And if so, thank you in advance. So I said that we want this to be a social event. Again, the hashtag on Twitter that we'll be using to talk about the event is EdgeEcoCast. And if you tweet using the Twitter icon on the bottom of the console, that hashtag will be automatically appended. ActualTech Media is producing today's event, and you can follow us on Twitter as well, ActualTech Media. And then finally, you can follow me on Twitter as well, where I am David M. Davis. ActualTech Media also has a number of other places. You can always feel free to subscribe to our podcast on the iTunes store. It's called the 10 on Tech Podcast, as well as our YouTube channel. and our LinkedIn page. You can find icons on the top right-hand corner of your console there to those different social channels where you can just simply click to subscribe and keep up on the latest and greatest in enterprise tech from ActualTech Media, as well as future events. And now I'm excited to introduce CEO of ActualTech Media and former CIO, Mr. Scott D. Lowe, who's going to talk to us today and give today's keynote, all related to edge computing. So with that, take it away, Scott.
You know, it really wasn't all that long ago, okay, maybe it was, that everything in IT happened in a local data center or in a co-located data center of some kind. As you, I hope, are aware, things are a bit different these days, and we have new environments and new challenges to overcome. Now, if you haven't done anything with cloud, you're very much in the minority, but it's still something people are trying to grapple with. You know, the local data center is not, well, it's not necessarily a solved problem. It's much closer to being a solved problem than what we're doing with cloud these days. There's lots of inefficiencies that are being introduced with cloud, overspend, complexity around multi-cloud adoption, things like that. But it's provided organizations with an alternative way to deploy workloads that didn't exist all that long ago. And it's provided organizations with a new economic model, although not one without challenges. You know, we have these issues of cloud cost management, governance, and sprawling workload environments and multi-cloud deployments that we have to overcome. One of the other challenges that's facing IT as far as changes go are new ways to support robo, what we're calling now the edge, as part of the edge. So robo stands for remote office branch office, and it used to be an entity or an area unto itself. But it's really, that term has become something new. We call it the edge. Now, the definition of the edge is dependent on who you talk to. But in general, it's a term to describe a location at which data is created. And this can include our traditional robo environments, remote office, branch office environments, which can include sprawling locations such as supermarket chains, other retail establishments, and lots more. But there's more. Data gathering is one need when we think about the edge. And this idea of data being processed locally is gaining much more traction than it used to. It used to be that we would think about we can gather data at the edge and send it to the cloud for processing. And in some ways, that's still true for a lot of data. But imagine the case, for example, of a supermarket that's offline. The internet connection is down, or the redundant connection is down, whatever. You don't want those stores to be down because their systems are down. So there has to be local processing. And there is. Lots of companies are solving the robo issue to help these sprawling environments do IT efficiently. But if we look at newer types of applications, let's take self-driving cars, for example, or agricultural equipment. The latency involved in trips to the cloud can be difficult for these applications to absorb. In the case of self-driving cars, let's take a case where an electric vehicle is driving down the road and a pedestrian walks out in front of it. Do we want that self-driving car to have a 15 millisecond latency while it uploads data to the cloud to determine whether or not it should hit the human? Probably not. I think we want the car to decide to swerve or to do some other activity, such as hit the brakes really hard, so we don't kill someone. And when we look at agricultural equipment, for example, these have low or no bandwidth. They have to be able to make decisions based on local conditions, and there has to be processing power on these pieces of equipment to be able to make that happen. The technologies are here today to do this, and there's lots of them out there. You know, we've seen the rise of artificial intelligence and machine learning technologies that are helping with things like agricultural equipment, self-driving vehicles, things like that. These are basically mobile data centers that have their own processing power and don't have to rely on centralized cloud services to make decisions. And if we look at other technologies supporting edge environments, hyperconverged infrastructure is a big one for robo environments. We see Internet of Things technologies as data gathering points for sensor data acquisition. And we're going to see the rise of 5G mobile technology as supporting all of this for those times when we do have to have interconnectivity, even whether it's local or whether it's from an edge environment to a cloud environment. This doesn't mean that the edge will never talk to a data center or to the cloud. It's just that these environments have to be self-sustaining in some way, and those are going to be challenges that are to be overcome over the next few years.
All right, great presentation, excellent insight by Mr. Scott Lowe about the state of edge computing. I've just brought up a poll question for you out there in the audience. This is the first poll question on the event today and should be a pretty easy one to answer. It's, what is your industry vertical? Note that you may need to scroll down because, as you can imagine, there's a lot of verticals in the world today. Just select the vertical that corresponds to you and your company, and I'll be sharing the results of this here. I'll give you just a minute to answer. All right, lots of responses coming in. I see technology companies, healthcare, manufacturing, state and federal government, telecom, media, retail. Who am I missing? Anybody out there? Nonprofit, manufacturing. All right. Thank you, everyone, for those responses. Let me share the results of that with you. And it looks like 28% on the event today are from technology companies. From there, we go to 11% at manufacturing, 11% at healthcare organizations, 5% nonprofit, 6% energy, 6% higher education. A real good distribution across all different sorts of verticals, so thank you, everyone who responded to that question. And then another question here, and that is, how many people work at your company? And I think it's interesting to try to find out here, when it comes to edge computing, who's interested in edge, who's doing edge, and what size of organizations out there are working with edge computing today. So thank you, everyone who's responding to this poll question. And looks like 21% are at smaller companies, 12% are at very large companies, and then, as you can imagine, the sweet spot is kind of right in the middle, between 100 and 2,500 employees, represents over 35% of the audience today. So thank you. And then final poll question here before I introduce our first presenter, and that is, what's your time frame for updating or adding new edge solutions at your company? If you're on the event today, likely you're learning about edge solutions, or you have some plans perhaps for edge computing. So the question is just around the time frame for that, and I appreciate all the responses. All right, thank you, everyone who responded to that poll. And now it's my pleasure to introduce MORITZ MANN, Head of Product Management at Open Systems. MORITZ, are you with us?
Yes. Hi.
Yeah, thanks for being on the event today. And now, before you kick off your presentation, I know we have one quick poll question here, and that is, have you heard of Secure Access Service Edge? And I'll just leave that question up for the audience here for just a minute, because I'm sure you're interested in the answer to this. Am I right, MORITZ?
Absolutely.
All right. And 22% have heard of it. 77% have not heard of it. MORITZ, what's your take on that? Is that what you see typically?
Wow, that's great. I mean, it's really hot off the press, so I'm very glad to hopefully provide some context and learning for you, everyone on the webinar right now.
Excellent, excellent. All right, well, with that, I'll go ahead and put you there at your first slide and just take it away, MORITZ.
Okay, thank you. So hello, everyone. My name is MORITZ MANN. I'm a Head of Product Management at Open Systems. So we are a converged network and security as a service provider, and providing a service platform that actually enables you to connect your users with the applications wherever they are. And to kick things off, I think one of the key kind of observations that we've done is that traditional networks have been outgrown by the cloud itself. I mean, this maybe sounds like an obvious statement, but if you look a bit closer, and we will come to that, it's clear that it comes down to the question whether you as a company will be able to transform yourself into the multi-cloud future. And if you do that, you need a multi-cloud network that is able to handle that. We also think that there is a lot of potential that's currently not leveraged on the edge, but also the cloud, to make actually an impact and a difference on how you operate. So to kick things off, I think it's fair to say that we've gone through the slope of enlightenment. So when looking at cloud adoption, much of the focus has shifted from unrealistic promises to what the cloud will transform to to a more pragmatic approach that views the cloud as inevitable. And we're not yet there in terms of the plateau of productivity, as Gartner calls it. But we kind of getting to a slope where we kind of get a grip on what we can do with the cloud. And that is also very much, sorry for that, very much supported by where we see that that the IT budgets are shifting. So it's not just what analysts say. So reality shows actually that most enterprises started their cloud journey and already spent significant amounts of money for cloud services. But this also means spending more money on the appropriate skill sets. And if you look at why companies are moving to the cloud, I think there is a big appetite for different and various reasons. And I don't want to go too much into the different kind of cloud adoption maturity types that they are, but there are various set of reasons to use the cloud and to make your business better and your IT infrastructure more lean. So if you look at kind of the potential and the options that the cloud provides for enterprises, then it's everything starts with this big promise of opportunities. And our prospects show that the IT landscape has quite shifted a lot to an open metropolis, as they describe it. So everything is connected. Everything becomes distributed on-prem, cloud, and data centers, and everything becomes very much diverse. So mobile users, IoT, and edge computing come into play. What has dramatically shifted actually from an endpoint or from approach perspective is that we don't need to wait for technology any longer. So now it's the opposite way. And unfortunately, sometimes technology is waiting longer for us than we want to do it, because it's not always as easy to access and integrate this technology into the existing IT infrastructure. In fact, compared to the picture of the metropolis or Shanghai before, we saw the infrastructure in general and the WAN and the network in particular often looks if you look at it closely, more like this. So it's very secure, but the reality is the IT infrastructure resembles a castle with a moat that you cannot, that it does not really represent the metropolis that you saw earlier towards that. And if you look at the reasons for that, it actually comes down to the fact that traditional architectures, connectivity is usually one of the most inflexible parts of leveraging cloud, but also connecting to the cloud and making the cloud available at the edge. And secondly, of course, performance is a big driver that poses a big challenge. And last but not least, as information gets more distributed, security becomes a big issue. And this is where you don't want to make compromises, especially when moving fast ahead. So the network in leveraging the cloud, but also the possibilities of the edge becomes actually the challenge, but actually also the solution for making this a success. And if you look at more detail, what technologies are out there, kind of solve the base foundations, it's that SD-WAN can help you to design your network around the cloud and the applications and put them into the center, opposed to the good old castle mode where you have the data center in the middle or the headquarter to go and build your network around it. So how can we solve that? So how does SD-WAN actually solve that? So we overcome this with connectivity, performance, and security challenges by actually providing a network agnostic connectivity layer that allows you to break out hybridly to the internet, to the clouds, to your local factories, and connect them with a much more bandwidth oriented model than the restricted fixed bandwidth model of past days. Also, from a performance perspective, it allows you to control bandwidth, have a smart, intelligent smart path selection where your application workloads are flowing through, being it to your old data center or to different cloud providers, and optimize then the apps on top of that. And also, we address, SD-WAN addresses security with built-in protection, detection and response capabilities, and integration into security concepts like SIEM and MDR following that. So first of all, first learning is this is now. So this is what we experience without like our customers. Everybody's on this journey right now. Every company is undergoing this network transformation. So some are at the beginning, some are already farther ahead. They think beyond WAN, and if it comes down to help those challenges and think about edge computing and how to supercharge it, we have to think about and take a look at cloud proximity. And kind of the essential part of cloud proximity in the journey there is usually that you think in lift and shift of your existing infrastructure. And a second common part is actually, which happens mostly side by side, is actually that you knowingly or unknowingly adopt to public cloud services like Office 365 and Salesforce and so on. And as a third kind of common pattern that we see is that you develop cloud applications on your own, which actually is then kind of the key driver for a different approach in how you address IT. So in the end, on this journey, SD-WAN brings users closer to the cloud and therefore improves their experience. But of course, it's also the cloud providers that make big investments to actually bring the cloud closer to you as the user. And if we drill down on that, you can see that the most significant growth rates of the three hyperscalers, and we should also add Alibaba Cloud in here, is that the growth in availability zones have been over 40% in just between 2017 to 2018, and this growth rate has seen even a bigger increase this year, just from a sheer edge and region availability perspective. Interestingly, if you look at also deployment priorities of the big cloud providers, one of the findings is that the hub markets, so i.e. the developed countries, are now getting less investments than the secondary markets. So this means that the picture of the different cloud environments that we've just seen will just increase in density over time. And there are many good reasons to go to and I think to leverage the benefits of the cloud. So when you think and look at the cloud promises, is that and follow the thought of the cloud coming closer to the end user in the business. I think what we've already seen in our private lives with Netflix and other CDN kind of based offerings, we experience it every day. But on the business sense, this is also happening by several use cases that take the cloud to the near and then to the far edge of your network. So bringing actually the cloud functions much closer and as an extension to the edge. One very good example is of edge computing here is, I think, the Chick-fil-A case, which run their own Kubernetes clusters in their actually environments, in their different restaurants to gather data, to automate eventually cooking the kitchen around this, and instead of like relying on the cloud backends and the cloud edge, they pushed actually everything to optimize their signaling to their own, they call it Chick-fil-A Cloud Edge, which is their SD-WAN edge computing cloud. So one other finding is, the second finding is that this cloud doesn't stop at the cloud. So as you've seen, cloud providers extend their footprint. Content providers are moving to the edge as kind of the first movers, but the rest of the offerings are following with Amazon Outpost, Azure Intelligent Edge, and so on. And companies are starting to develop their own hybrid solution by combining cloud and edge. So what can we actually learn from the cloud when designing a modern edge, intelligent edge and cloud, multi-cloud native network? So first of all, I think we are at a very good start where we have achieved that security network can live integrated side by side on the same platform. So SD-WAN does it right, puts the cloud in the center of the network, but the cloud doesn't stop at the cloud, as it's part of the edge as well in the future, and also in first use cases. So I think the main difference is that enterprises start to rather think on how we connect a site or a user to the cloud. We have to think about how to merge network and the cloud. So actually to enable your business to start to treat your edge and network like a cloud. So the network needs to merge into the cloud, or the cloud into the network. We need to stop thinking about edge delivery or cloud delivery only. We need to be flexible enough to deliver whatever results are in the best interest of performance. And kind of to boil it down to why the cloud for the WAN and the WAN for the cloud needs to merge is the core building blocks for that are that the edge and cloud delivered SD-WAN functionalities are coming together, leverage the cloud as part of the WAN and not vice versa. And we also see and also start to offer this, that workloads are not running in the WAN, but really intelligently on the edge where it makes sense from a business perspective. So we say it's not about network native or being cloud native, it's about cloud and edge native, because this is where the convergence moves to. And to the poll question, so SASE or Secure Access Service Edge is actually this convergence I was talking about. It's a new term that was coined by Gartner, which is actually describing the convergence between an intelligent edge and the cloud integration. So meaning intelligently delivering security network functions from the cloud where necessary, but also at the end, and this is then our differentiation on this, also providing the customers or your own workloads on the edge where it is needed. It also means a total convergence of network and security as a service, so being network agnostic with built-in connectivity, network and security functions. And also very important aspect is that this comes not as a point or incremental point solution, but as a fully strategic platform that comes delivered as a service and integrates very nicely in your environments. So what we are doing in this case is that we provide a hyperscale SASE as a service platform. So we integrate with in a multi-cloud architecture that's built on hyperscale platforms that enables you, without any intermediary backbones or other clouds that you have to go through, to actually move your workloads to the cloud, keep the ones that you need to keep on the legacy data centers or your physical data centers where it makes sense, but also enable you to move then the workloads where needed and make the edge part of your future intelligence edge strategy. This means that the resources that you then build up in the cloud are not longer confined in those cloud service providers, but they can also be pushed to the near edge, i.e. your data centers, your production sites, but even further than extending that to reach then the far edge to fulfill all kinds of different business cases like deep learning algorithm execution at the edge, and also data pre-processing and all these functions that are very specific to your business to really make a difference and leverage the compute power where it's necessary on the edge, but are being very close to the cloud edge where necessary. So with that being said, so the third learning here is start to think and start to treat your edge or your network like a cloud. And yeah, I want to thank you for having me to make this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Great presentation, MORITZ. I know this is a relatively new thing to a lot of IT professionals out there, and for me even as well. So I'm learning a lot. I know everyone else here is learning a lot too. Let me bring up this poll question for the audience, and that is, what additional information would you like about the open system solution? And I'll just leave that up while we do some Q&A here. So MORITZ, let's see. First question that came in, they're asking about is, basically, when you talk about the open system solution specifically, is this hardware? Is this software? How is this deployed exactly?
That's a very good question. So we provide our services as a service. It's a full subscription service, so you don't have to take care actually anymore about to think of a hardware. So if you have a physical site and it makes sense, we have our own standardized unified CPE that we can send globally and also take over the management. But we also can deploy it completely in software, so we can roll out via clients. We have cloud deployment and different hypervisor functions that you can integrate your own infrastructure with. So it can be as easy as just pointing your configuration of your edge routers to us, or installing a software, or changing a small configuration in your browser, down to a fully managed enterprise-grade solution, including the managed services around it. So we support all of that.
Got it. Okay. And then another question here is around use cases. I mean, what are the most common use cases you're seeing for the open system solution today?
Thank you. Very good question. So I think, as I've mentioned earlier, there are different, so enterprises undergo different cloud maturity stages, and most of them all at the same time. So the use cases are starting very simply by enabling secure cloud and SaaS access, protecting critical production sites workloads, but then become very much more specific depending on the industry. So, for instance, in manufacturing, we see use cases all around securing IoT environments, securing production environments by detecting threat in those environments. And if it comes down to edge computing, these use cases are very much then driven by different customers. So if it's about pre-processing data, if it's about MQTT gateways that are available to support certain IoT protocols to steer edge or IoT hardware and PCIs to steer them. that there's a great variety. I think what always is in common is that security is important, and independent of the environment, if it's in healthcare, pharmaceutical, chemicals, or manufacturing or financial services, that the network and the network segmentation and the understanding and protection of those networks and criticalities is ensured by the platform.
Got it. So when people look at the open system solution, in many cases, is it seen as a replacement for perhaps an aging WAN or a VPN, a centralized VPN like concentrator service they have? Or, and I mean, of course, there are many new, greenfield use cases, but what is it kind of displacing?
I think it's displacing, as you mentioned, traditional MPLS, very rigid architectures. It also enables, it replaces lots of the kind of incumbent like VPN solutions that are maybe able to handle hybrid WANs and things like classic client VPN deployments. So we come in and we pose a very multi-cloud native platform that can be delivered at the edge where it makes sense, and that's a long-term solution to actually undergo the whole transformation that is directly integrated in the hyperscalers to connect and decrease the cloud proximity to between all your users and your different use cases and the cloud workloads.
Got it. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That's very helpful. And then another question here, is Open Systems a secure access service edge provider or a vendor?
So we are a provider and not a vendor. I think that's a difference. I would say we are an as-a-service platform, so we are kind of a mix of both. So we have kind of the innovation and the scalability and the features of a product, but at the same time, you have the benefits of a platform, a service, meaning you have also actually people to talk to. We provide SLAs. And you can decide if you're a lean-in customer, so doing more like co-management, or if you want to have a fully managed kind of autopiloted platform that is vendor and also network agnostic and actually acts in your interest and lowers your TCO in that. Okay, nice. Here's a question from Robert, and I know it's a little ambiguous, but maybe you can try to answer it. And the question is, does Open Systems play nice with AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud? No, well, it's not that not only that we play nice, we are partners of theirs, and we actually we integrate directly with them because we believe that this is where we create the most value for customers by actually leveraging those immense infrastructures in a way that it would take you a whole engineering team to make this work. So to give you an example, we're one of the few providers, actually I think one of the very few providers being the virtual WAN launch customer with Microsoft Azure, because they have also understood that they have to open up the inroads for their cloud platforms and make it easy for customers to integrate their workloads and their networks into their architectures. So this is where we work together with all of them. Nice. All right. Let's see, another question here. They say, Daniel says, I have an IoT use case. Can you help? Can you cover it? Well, that's maybe a too generic question, but I mean, we are always open to talk. I mean, we have lots of manufacturing, IoT and IoT customers in that field. So I would say I would need to look at the use case directly and then have a design and discussion about it.
Yeah,
and depends, of course, of the goals. On the goals of that, is it more about the connectivity? Is it connectivity, security, and integration at the edge? So there are many ways to play and to solve this and to implement it. We're happy to talk about it and then find a solution.
Excellent, excellent. And I guess along those lines, I mean, if somebody wanted to get started with open systems today, what do you recommend as the first step?
Yeah, so either you ping me directly on LinkedIn or send me an email. So my email is MORITZ, so MANN at open-systems.com, or you go to our website and www.open-systems.com and then use the contact form. So we are there. We have a presence also in the US and all over the place to actually come to you and have a direct conversation with you. And we also have several reference customers, so we are not kind of, we have a good track record and high good references to talk to if you're interested.
Okay, excellent. Excellent. Well, really great presentation again, Moritz. Thank you so much for being on the event today.
Okay, thank you everyone, and have a great for the webinar. Bye.
All right, bye-bye. For more information on open systems, like Moritz said, visit open-systems.com. Also, we've got a handout right there in your audience console, and this looks really helpful, especially to anyone who's getting started with SD-WAN. This is the definitive guide to SD-WAN. So just click on that, download it, read it after the event. Tons of good information, all kinds of facts and statistics in here to check out, share with your friends and colleagues. So good info. I know I'm learning a lot about SD-WAN. I know a lot of you are as well. And it's a great way, of course, to connect your edge locations. So with that, it's time to announce our first Amazon $500 gift card winner. And I would say I would try to pronounce the name as Duke Vuleong from Colorado. Congratulations, Duke. You're the first gift card winner. We've got 2 more to give out after our next presentation, so make sure that you stay tuned for that. And now it's my pleasure to introduce ADRIAN FINCH, Solutions Marketing Manager at Nutanix. ADRIAN, are you there?
I'm there. Can you hear me okay?
I can, yeah. Thank you for being on. Take it away.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. Good morning. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining today. So let's get started. So joining me on the call is Ken. He's our Principal Product Manager for Robo. So he'll be available throughout the session to take your questions if you just want to type those into the question box. And then we'll also stick around after the session to make sure we've gotten to everyone's questions. So great. So, the way we're really thinking about Robo here at Nutanix is that the central data center is really the center of operations where customers are collecting the largest amount of data and are using the largest amount of compute and resources. And, they're running those workloads that range from VDI and large databases. But when we talk about remote and branch office, we're really thinking of it as an extension of the data center, not really a separate silo. So these remote and branch offices can range from small offices or stores to large distribution centers, and customers are really running vertical specific workloads like EUC or small databases or business apps like point of sale. Now, edge compute can also include these branch locations, but when we talk about the edge at Nutanix, we're really seeing customers who are processing and analyzing data in real time. And so we're seeing them explore emerging use cases like IoT and AI within these edge locations. But for the purpose of today's presentation, we're really going to focus on Robo. And so, we're seeing the volume of data and the velocity of data growing significantly from these remote sites. But so is the inefficiency of streaming all this information to a cloud or a central data center for processing. We see that around 10% of enterprise-generated data is created and processed outside of a traditional data center or cloud. And by 2025, Gartner really predicts this figure to reach 75%. So we're seeing organizations embracing a more decentralized approach for their IT infrastructure design. So when we're talking to customers, we're really hearing a few specific challenges with the robo deployments. We're hearing first that current infrastructure is complex for robo. There are islands of infrastructure with servers, storage, network, all provided by different vendors and managed separately. And this creates a lot of headaches for our customers. And they're also running different workloads and applications at these sites. So it's been a challenge to support all of these requirements with the same infrastructure, which often results in many different appliances on site. We're also hearing challenges about management complexity. At these robo sites, there often isn't a dedicated IT person on site, which can lead to a lot of errors when you're trying to manage things remotely with different management platforms. And lastly, with little to no IT resource on site, customers are telling us that they're struggling with managing for risk and downtime. They're challenged to maintain the same uptime as the central data center and also minimize the impact of unexpected outages on users and the business. Now, to solve the complexity of infrastructure, we've really built a solution that's easy to scale up and scale down, starting as small as one node. And scaling is 100% linear, so you can easily add computer storage based on your changing requirements. We also provide a cost-effective solution. So with per VM pricing, we're untying price from infrastructure, and we're making it more affordable for our customers who might only need to run a few VMs. And with an HCI form factor, we're really helping customers to reduce footprint while also reducing costs on cooling and power in these remote locations. And lastly, many remote sites have different requirements for their workloads, and we really provide a single solution that you can run any workload or application on. In terms of management, our customers say they want a simple way to manage their infrastructure and data. So we're providing an easy-to-use single pane of management. Nutanix really consolidates infrastructure and application management into a single UI, which eliminates multiple management consoles. And our customers can also use the platform to perform upgrades and really reduce these time-intensive IT tasks down to a single click. We are also empowering customers to take a more service-oriented approach to IT and enabling them to really focus on reducing time to resolve requests while also raising quality. And we're helping them do all of this through automation for workload deployment and application lifecycle management. And lastly, we're enabling customers to consolidate a wide variety of data, including files, blocks, and objects on the same platform, and to be able to scale and manage non-disruptively as your data requirements grow. At Nutanix, we've really built high availability and data protection ground up into our platform. One of the core tenets of being web scale is really the ability to self-heal. And we build our software with a fundamental assumption that hardware will fail or that there's going to be a human error. So we strive to ensure that your VMs and apps are never impacted when a failure happens, and the underlying issue is automatically fixed, really without any user intervention. Now, enterprise-grade disaster recovery and data protection is also built into our software. You can replicate your VM locally or to the central data center, and the entire data recovery process can be automated, resulting in minimal downtime. And lastly, you can create a powerful distributed firewall that really gives you a further layer of data protection with application-centric policy management tools for securing your VM traffic. And so what we're delivering here is really a full-stack solution. With HCI, server data protection and storage and networking are condensed into a single scale-out solution that can really run any app and offers a lot of value for robo customers who are looking to simplify. And with native virtualization, you can leverage AHV as your hypervisor to save on costs. And customers also benefit from centralized management and operations and really have the flexibility in how they're backing up their data. Now with Nutanix platform, our customers can really lower the footprint and the overall infrastructure costs in remote sites. For fast local recovery, you can choose to create local snapshots on the primary remote cluster or back up your data to a local single node replication target that can store up to 120 terabytes of raw capacity. You also have the flexibility on where you're storing your critical application data. This can be done either on premises or to the cloud. And over the WAN, you can back up your most critical applications or data to your main data center periodically. And you have a few cloud backup options. You can go with Nutanix Cloud, which includes our Xi Beam, Leap, IoT, or Frame, or you can choose your public cloud vendor. And we also offer VM cross-hypervisor disaster recovery from on-premises to the main data center or to the cloud. Now, our management platform really gives administrators a simple and elegant way to manage their virtual environments. Alrighty, so our management platform, Prism, really gives you I'd call it a simple and elegant way to manage your virtual environments. You can centrally manage your entire infrastructure stack all the way from physical clusters and storage up to your virtual machines. We also really provide visibility of application health and performance per VM with detailed storage, memory, CPU, and networking metrics. It makes it simple to instantly see the performance and quickly remediate issues with a single click. We also offer the ability to tag clusters from small robo sites to geo-specific tags, so you can really select which locations you want to upgrade and select the time at which you want to perform the upgrade to ensure no downtime. And with our Foundation Central within Prism, users can do simplified remote robo deployments. So you can create a cluster from a factory image node remotely from Prism Central without a staff visit on site. Now, in terms of data, what's unique about remote office and branch office implementations is they often require the same kinds of resources within the central data center to support these local workloads, but they require it in a small footprint that's flexible enough to really run any workload within that robo site. So Nutanix is ideal for robo in this sense because distributed sites can deploy an entire data center that's flexible enough to provide block storage for local database apps, file storage for user and departmental shares, or file data synchronization, local object for archive and web integration, and virtual compute and VM storage for your application hosting. So in terms of application management for Robo, with fully integrated self-service capabilities delivered by COM, your customers can truly deliver IT as a service. So you can simply gather an inventory of the most commonly requested resources or applications, blueprint them, and then publish them onto an internal marketplace. And blueprints incorporate all of the elements of each application, including virtual machines, associated binaries, configurations, and dependencies between components of the application. And then stakeholders can visit your app store, get what they need instantly, and this really enables you to speed deployment of these applications. And time is also freed from manually closing IT tickets while really still retaining control of the application instances that were deployed. Now, a lot of people have questions about security, and it shouldn't really be an afterthought or a big overhead for a business to maintain. We take a comprehensive defense-in-depth approach to security that covers the entire infrastructure lifecycle from how the product is built to how it's deployed and managed. The security-forward focus includes really integrated functionality like encryption, microsegmentation, database masking, and database patching, as well as a strong partner ecosystem that we support. Our holistic approach to security really covers a few key pillars. First is the platform. With the security development lifecycle, security is incorporated into our product development from the start, which often avoids difficult trade-offs between security and performance or features. In terms of automation, we publish custom security baseline documents called Security Technical Implementation Guides, or more commonly referred to as STIGs, that cover the entire infrastructure stack, and we prescribe steps to how you can secure deployment in the field. And then lastly, in terms of ecosystem, we don't believe that any product is an island. We take a holistic approach to delivering comprehensive security through a broad partner ecosystem that can really meet any diverse security needs that you might have. When we talk about what makes us different, we obviously think we're very different, but in terms of a few key points, in terms of streamlining infrastructure cost and complexity, we have native support for file, block, and object data on the same platform. We also support multiple 2-node clusters with a single witness VM. And you can leverage AHV, so you're not paying for a hypervisor. Now, managing infrastructure requires a large number of moving parts, and our goal is to really try to reduce that number. We provide one UI for end-to-end infrastructure and app management, and one-click upgrades across both the hardware and your software stack. And lastly, our web-scale architecture can self-heal and recover proactively. You can also scale down from 2 nodes to 1 node without the fear that your data will be lost. And we have an industry-leading Net Promoter Score of 90+, which really signifies that customers are really happy with our service and are willing to stick around as our customers. Now, we often get a lot of questions on this witness VM, and unique to Nutanix is that you only need one witness VM for that 2-node cluster across locations. Most vendors require one witness for each cluster, which really takes up compute and storage resources. Now, once a customer has deployed Nutanix cluster, the very next thought is how do they protect it? And we have a comprehensive range of BCDR products and solutions for our customers to protect and recover their workloads. To start, when you have a secondary data center or site available, you have the choice of spinning up another Nutanix cluster in that site and the choice of protecting workloads with async, near sync, or synchronous replication, depending on how critical your applications are. Implementation really defines the RPO for the application, which is the maximum data loss that your application can suffer if you have an outage. After the RPO question really comes the RTO challenge. For customers that can leverage recovery plans to test and really be confident about how prepared they are in the event of a disaster. And some businesses have cost and complexity-driven reasons for applications to be protected in the public cloud. In this case, you can really use our disaster recovery as a service pay-per-use solution. This is called XyLeap, and this is a seamless hybrid cloud experience across both your on-premise and the Nutanix public cloud. Now, beyond disaster recovery, enterprise customers who want to implement a popular 3-2-1 data protection strategy often look up to backload their workloads with a third-party vendor like Commvault, NBU, or Veeam. And not only do Nutanix customers have the choice of choosing an industry-leading backup vendor, but they also have the choice of a purpose-built platform for backup with a product called Nutanix MINE. So most customers have multiple locations with different resources, and we really offer that flexible configuration option. Now, traditional Nutanix cluster requires a minimum of 3 nodes, but we offer the option of a 2-node cluster for robo implementations. And unlike a 1-node cluster, the 2-node cluster can still provide many of the resiliency features of a 3-node. And this is possible by adding that external witness VM that I talked about as a separate failure domain. Now, for 1 clusters, you can use a second 1-node cluster as a replication target, as I mentioned earlier, for your backup and recovery workflows. And customers can run really any number of VMs on a single cluster as long as that cluster has enough compute, network, and storage. And because we don't believe in vendor lock-in, you can choose any supported OEM hardware vendor. You can choose to run on Nutanix, or you can go to a Lenovo or a Cisco or an HPE. And we also introduced that consumption model for Robo that I mentioned earlier that really gives you the flexibility to bring different Nutanix software together in a way that's simple for you to plan, price, and purchase. As I mentioned earlier at Nutanix, we've really built high availability and data protection ground up into our platform. The Nutanix platform has redundant power supplies, memory, and CPU, and the platform is resilient to the individual hard disk failure. If a disk fails, your data is protected, your data is automatically rebuilt without any impact to your application. It's also important to know that we are a true software-defined platform. We don't have any hardware RAID solution for protecting data locally, and so it's a true distributed solution where if a disk or node fails, other nodes in the cluster will work together to bring up the VM and repopulate the data locally and automatically to multiple locations. Now, our approach to infrastructure really offers what we feel are real tangible benefits to our customers in terms of agility and faster time to value and a lower total cost of operation. We love to share the study conducted by IDC that really quantifies the benefits of our infrastructure. And customers found a 500% return on investment over a 5-year period and a 60% lower total cost of ownership with a 7-month payback period. We also love to share that customer success is really one of our greatest obsessions. As I mentioned, we have a 90-plus Net Promoter Score 5 years in a row, which really, I think, sets us apart from our competition. We support across 150 countries and 10 support centers, and we really put this care into our customers that is evident in our 97% customer retention score. And I think that's why customers love to stick with us. For Robo specifically, we have over 1,500 customers who are using our Robo solution, from JetBlue to CarMax to building suits with Canali Spa. So we're really proud of our customers and love working with them. So that's all I have today. Apologies for all of the technical difficulties, but I'm here to stick around for Q&A if we have time. Otherwise, we can monitor through the chat box.
Absolutely. Yeah, we do have some time for Q&A. Great presentation, Adrian. Thank you very much. Let's do some questions now. And while we do that, I've brought up this poll question for the audience that says, what additional information would you like about the Nutanix solution? So I'll just leave that up while we do some Q&A. First one I see that came in here, Erickson is asking, which version of the VMware hypervisor can be migrated to Acropolis? And maybe you want to take that as an opportunity to just talk about how do people migrate in general from, say, VMware vSphere to Acropolis?
Yeah, so for that, I'm going to ask Ken, our product manager, to join, and he probably can offer a more in-depth answer than I could. Ken, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hey, Adrian, can you hear me?
Okay, great. Yep, we can hear you.
Right, so regarding the questions like what versions of VMware hypervisor can we migrate to HV? First of all, Nutanix software allow either VMware hypervisor, Microsoft Hyper-V, or Nutanix owned KVM-based HV hypervisor to be the underlying layer for the virtualizations. Customer can choose either any of these hypervisors to run their VMs, right? But in case, then if they first deploy VMware hypervisor in their production environment, if they want to migrate to HV, there are a couple of ways to do that. Either they need to re-foundation or reinstall the hypervisor in the cluster so that they can change it to the AHV hypervisor. Or Nutanix has also offered a features where internally there is a one-click mechanism where customer can instantly change their hypervisor during the runtime. If that feature is called Move, that's also possible. And the third way is if customer want that experience to be less disruptive, it could be just removing one node at a time and then do the reinstallations of the hypervisor to change that. And for all the for the hypervisor that will support that, it's basically all the major VMware vSphere, ESXi hypervisor version 6.5, and basically all the major versions that VMware has an end of sale of that particular hypervisor. Does it make sense?
Yeah, excellent answer, yeah. And then in terms of HV, there's another question here around, kind of the feature set of HV for people who are perhaps on another hypervisor today and might not be familiar with HV. Does HV have similar capabilities? I mean, migration of virtual machines, high availability, disaster recovery, are those things available?
Well, short answer is yes. So essentially, one second, let me just. Yes, so yes, HV has all the VM migrations, high availability, disaster recovery, VM HA. Basically, I would say that HV has all the key features that a virtualization admin needs to manage their VM environments, right? Just to be completely transparent, yes, HV may not have all the bell and whistle that ESXi offer, but based on our survey with the customer in the field, HV can do at least 90% of the jobs that VMware can do on the vSphere ESXi hypervisor. And we have seen a great adoption of customer moving from VMware ESXi to HV. And as a matter of fact, like things like most of the robo deployments are very cost driven. And we have seen even a higher adoption of AHV hypervisor for a lot of our robo customers as compared to our main data center customer.
Oh, that's an excellent point, especially on this, edge remote office focused event. So, and then another question around the Nutanix hardware that's typically deployed out in remote office locations. Can you give us some idea of where that starts? I mean, like, what's the smallest entry level node that's available from Nutanix?
Yes, so that's a good question. So the smallest form factor that we offer is, as Adrian mentioned in the presentation, is a one node cluster. And basically, Nutanix has a software that can form a one node cluster that still offer this level of resiliency, right? Meaning that one of the form factor we offer on the Nutanix NX platform, which is a 1U, 1 node form factor, which is a single socket system, has at least or has a choice of 8-core, 12 or 18-core CPU, and decent amount of memory. And then it is a full 3.5-inch system where most of the customer can put 2 SSD and 2 HDD into this box. And then that can give them enough compute and storage capacity. And we have a software that's specifically designed for one node so that in case of any disk failure, there's still another copy of data within the same one node cluster, right? So that there's some level of data resiliency. And typically our customer will run less than 5 VMs on the one node cluster. And those customers will basically say, look, I don't have a lot of VM need on each of these remote sites, but I could have hundreds of thousands of sites that I need this small VM requirement. But the value prop of running one node cluster on hundreds of thousands of sites is to really simplify the management of all this cluster, right? So the saving on the operating cost is very significant, given the benefits of Nutanix HCI solution. But that will be the starting point, using one node cluster and on a hardware that provide a good level of data resiliency.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, it does,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Okay.
And then here's another question James is asking about the one-click disaster recovery that Adrian presented on. Where is that data stored? Where is that data protected? Is it protected at the central site? Is it protected in a Nutanix cloud or in some other public cloud?
So for that one-click disaster recovery, right? I would say it's all of them. It really depends on how does the customer want to design their data recovery strategy, right? Basically, Nutanix has a concept of primary cluster and the backup or disaster recovery cluster. The primary cluster can be at each of the robo sites, but the source of the backup cluster can be in the customer main data center. It can be in a local backup cluster that customer has designed. In this two scenario, right? Some customer has a faster rank lane that they have enough speed to save some critical data from the remote site back to the main data center. But a lot of our robo customer, their rank lane is very slow because these sites are at remote locations. So they would rather prefer to have a local backup. They can have a backup, basically moving the primary cluster to their local backup source. But there are also some other customers who are okay to move the backup data to the cloud Like it could be to some of the major public cloud vendor, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, as such, or like as Adrian mentioned in the solution architecture slide, where they can choose to move their data directly to our DR as a service. Basically, is a Nutanix cloud to really store those data and be able to do a disaster recovery in case there's any failure in that primary cluster.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Well, let's see. Final question I wanted to ask before we wrap up today's event is, if people wanted to get started with Nutanix, what do you recommend? Is it the test drive? Is that the best place to go, or?
Adrian, you want to take these questions, or you want me to take this question?
No, absolutely. I think if you want to get started with Nutanix, I think the first step is to just go online to our website, Nutanix.com, and there you can take a test drive, or you can sign up to do a demo. And from there, if you need additional information or want to speak to someone, you'll be able to fill out a form with your contact information.
Okay, excellent. Well, I think that's all the questions we have. That's all the time we have for questions as well. So it's been really, really educational. I learned a lot about Nutanix and Edge and remote office. Ken and Adrian, thank you so much for being on the event today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
For more information on Nutanix and their remote office and Edge solutions, check out the PDF handout that's available for download there in your audience console entitled Power, Remote, and Edge IT Landscapes with Nutanix Enterprise Cloud OS. And of course, as Adrian said, visit Nutanix.com and sign up for a test drive. All right, it's now time to award our final 2 gift cards on the event today. We have an Amazon $500 gift card going to Elaine Carpenter from Maryland. Congratulations, Elaine Carpenter. And our final gift card is going to Miles Britton from Arkansas. Congratulations, Miles Britton from Arkansas. Before you go, I want to remind you to subscribe to the ActualTech Media 10 on Tech podcast for the latest in enterprise technology innovation interviews. Also subscribe to our LinkedIn page. Follow us over on LinkedIn. You can click on the icon on the top right-hand corner of your console there that says IN for LinkedIn. If you're a potential sponsor of an upcoming event, email us at connect@actualtechmedia.com, and we'd love to chat with you about how these events might be able to help. And then finally, I hope that you'll join us for a special event we are doing week after next. This is going to be live from the AWS reInvent area. It's going to be live from Las Vegas. We'll be doing interviews that will run in parallel with the show of sponsors, including Firemon, Rubrik, SADA Systems, SolarWinds, and Nutanix, talking about their public cloud solutions related to AWS, Azure, and GCP. So we hope that you'll subscribe to that or join us on that. And as soon as you wrap up this event here, you will be automatically directed to the events.actualtechmedia.com webpage where you can sign up for that special live event. So hope to see you live from Las Vegas 2 weeks from today. I hope that you learned a lot on today's Edge EcoCast. I know that I did, and I hope to see you on the next event. Have a great day. Bye-bye.